Have you ever looked at a hydrangea covered in leaves, healthy as anything, and wondered where all the flowers went? You watered it, fed it, gave it morning sun and afternoon shade, exactly like the tag said. And every June, the same thing. Green, lush, not a single bloom. Meanwhile, your neighbor 2 doors down has the same plant drowning in flowers, and she says she does nothing to it. Over 10 million hydrangeas are sold in this country every year. They are the second most popular flowering shrub in America, right behind roses, and a huge number of them never produce a single flower for the person who planted them. If you search for why, you will find the same list everywhere. Not enough sun, too much sun, wrong soil, overwatering, underwatering, too much fertilizer. Those articles are not wrong exactly, but they miss the real answer. There is one concept that explains nearly every hydrangea bloom failure, and almost nobody teaches it. Before we get there, something about the flowers themselves that will surprise you, even if you have been growing hydrangeas for 40 years. What you have been calling petals your whole life are not actually petals. The plant grew them to look like flowers, but they are sterile, closer to leaves than anything else. They will never set a seed, and because they never get pollinated, the plant has no reason to drop them. That is why hydrangea blooms hold their color for months when a rose fades in a week. The real flowers are tiny, almost too small to notice, tucked underneath. Even the name is misleading. Hydrangea comes from 2 Greek words meaning water vessel. Most people hear that and assume the plant is extra thirsty. It is not. A botanist named it in 1753 because the dried seed capsules looked like little water jugs. Your hydrangea needs about the same amount of water as any other flowering shrub its size. So the flowers are not flowers. The name does not mean what most people think, and the reason yours is not blooming is probably not what anyone has told you. There are 6 species of hydrangea commonly grown in the United States. They look similar enough that most garden centers do not bother telling them apart. The tags say the same things. The care instructions read nearly identical, but underneath, they run on 2 different systems. The first is called old wood. The plant forms its flower buds in late summer and early fall, holds them through winter on last year's stems, and opens them the following June. Big leaf hydrangeas work this way. The big round mop heads, the flat lace caps. So do oak leaf hydrangeas, mountain hydrangeas, and climbing hydrangeas. Walk out to one of these plants in November and look at the branch tips. You can find next summer's flowers already sitting there. Small pointed buds, tight and waiting, packed with everything they need. They just have to survive until spring. The second is called new wood. The plant does not carry anything through winter. It waits until spring, pushes out fresh stems, and builds its flower buds on that brand new growth. Panicle hydrangeas work this way. The ones with the tall, pointed flower heads. So do smooth hydrangeas, the ones most people know as Annabelle. And once you see that, everything about hydrangeas makes sense. If you have an old wood hydrangea and you prune it in October or February or early April, you are cutting off flowers that already exist. They are on those stems right now. You just cannot see them yet. If your old wood hydrangea goes through a winter that drops below -10 degrees Fahrenheit, those buds can freeze solid and die. Come spring, you get a full, healthy green shrub, not a bloom in sight. If deer browse the branch tips in December, the buds leave with them. Every one of those is the same failure. Buds formed last summer. Something was destroyed before they could open. Now compare that to Annabelle. You can cut it to the ground in March. It blooms by July. Deer can strip every tip in January. Does not matter. It builds everything fresh each spring. Same family, same garden center aisle. Opposite rules. And here is what nobody explains at the point of sale. When you buy a hydrangea, you are not just picking a color. You are choosing a system. If you do not know which one you chose, you will follow advice meant for the other one, and you will wonder what you are doing wrong for years. If you are watching this and picturing the hydrangea in your own yard right now, tell me about it in the comments. What color are the blooms? Or what color were they the last time it actually flowered? I can usually tell you which system your plant runs on from that alone. And if you want more videos where one idea changes how you think about your whole garden, subscribe. For most of the 20th century, if you lived anywhere north of Zone 6, big leaf hydrangeas were a losing bet. You could wrap them in burlap, pile mulch a foot deep, and still lose every flower bud to one bad night in February. Gardeners in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Montana stopped trying. Then a 5th grade teacher named Dennis Bostrom planted a big leaf hydrangea in his yard in Cottage Grove, Minnesota, a suburb of St. Paul. And it kept blooming, not once, not as a lucky break, year after year, through Zone 4 winters that dropped well below -20 degrees Fahrenheit. His neighbor Vern Black happened to be a foreman at Bailey Nurseries, one of the largest wholesale plant growers in the country. He took cuttings and planted them in test rows at Bailey's facility. They watched that plant for over a decade. In September of 1998, a horticulturist named Michael Durr from the University of Georgia visited Bailey on a tour. He spotted a big leaf hydrangea in bloom months after it should have finished. He examined it and understood what he was seeing. A big leaf that could form flowers on both old and new wood. If winter killed the old buds, the plant simply made new ones in spring. He named it on his flight home. Endless Summer. It went on sale in the spring of 2004. By 2016, Bailey had sold over 25 million plants from that single lineage. All because a teacher in Minnesota planted something in his yard and paid attention when it did what it was not supposed to do. Now, before you act on any of this, 2 popular pieces of advice to stop following. Coffee grounds. You have probably heard this for years. Scatter used coffee grounds around your hydrangeas to turn them blue or help them bloom. A soil scientist at Oregon State University tested this. Brewed coffee grounds sit at a pH between 6.5 and 6.8, nearly neutral. They are not acidic enough to change your soil. Use them in the compost if you want. They will not fix a bloom problem, and they will not turn anything blue. The actual way to get blue flowers is aluminum sulfate applied to soil that is already acidic, and even that only works on big leaf and mountain hydrangeas. White varieties stay white regardless. Panicle hydrangeas do not change color. The trick is species-specific, which brings you right back to knowing what you planted. Bone meal is the other one. People call it a bloom booster. Phosphorus does support flowering, but only when your soil is genuinely short on it. If you pruned the buds off or frost killed them, no amount of bone meal will bring back what is already gone. You are feeding a plant that has nothing left to feed into. So if it is not the coffee grounds, and it is not the bone meal, and it is not the watering schedule, what do you actually do? You diagnose it. And the diagnosis starts with one question. Do you know whether your plant blooms on old wood or new wood? If you can answer that, the fix usually takes about 30 seconds to explain. If your hydrangea looks healthy, grows leaves every spring, but is not flowered in 2 or 3 seasons, ask yourself when you last pruned it. If the answer is fall or early spring, that is almost certainly an old wood pruning error. The fix is simple. Stop pruning entirely. Stop now and you should see blooms next June. Or if you need to shape the plant, do it in late July, right after it finishes flowering. That gives new buds time to form before winter. If buds form but die every winter no matter what you try, your climate is too harsh for that variety. Panicle hydrangeas are the most forgiving option in the entire genus. Limelight is hardy to Zone 3. That is -30 to -40 degrees Fahrenheit. It blooms on new wood, handles full sun, and flowers every year without fail. Smooth hydrangeas like Incrediball are the same story. New wood, Zone 3, no winter gamble. Most garden centers stock both by name. Plant one this fall and expect flowers the first summer. If you love the look of those big leaf blooms but garden in a cold zone, try mountain hydrangea instead. It is an old wood type, but it evolved in the mountains of Japan and Korea. Its buds handle cold much better than a standard big leaf. The Tough Stuff series was bred for exactly this. You may need a specialty nursery or an online grower to find them. If your hydrangea sits within a few feet of a lawn that gets regular fertilizer, nitrogen runoff is probably the problem. It pushes the plant to grow all leaves and no flowers. Move the shrub, or stop fertilizing the grass near it. If you received a hydrangea as a gift and it has not bloomed since you planted it outside, that is probably a florist variety. It was grown in a greenhouse and forced into early bloom. Outdoor conditions are a big adjustment. Give it 2 full seasons before you decide it has failed. Some adjust, some do not. And if you just planted a new hydrangea this spring and it skipped flowering entirely, that is normal. Young plants put their energy into roots. Most will bloom by year 2 or 3. Every one of those answers traces back to the same place. Old wood or new wood? That is the question that unlocks everything else. You do not need Latin names. You do not need a soil test kit. You need to answer one question about your plant, and every decision after that gets simpler. Next time you walk through the hydrangea section at the garden center, you will know what to ask. Not what color, not how tall it gets. Which system does it run on? And you will walk out with something that actually blooms in your yard, in your zone, year after year. Tell me where you garden in the comments. Your zone, your state, whatever you know. I am building more of these, and I want them to work for your climate, not just mine. Subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.